You sit in a ranger station that pretends to be a precinct, past midnight. The windows crusted with salt, the fan overhead clicking
Look at me,
every
Tammy
fourth
Lynn.
turn.
The tape
Outside,
is rolling.
the Atlantic breathes
Start from the
in long,
beginning.
patient lungs.
What happened out there
You
in the
can't see
glades?
it, but you feel its weight pressing through the glass. The chair is plastic and polite. Your back is not. He sits across from you, elbows hovering above the table as if your discomfort might be contagious. His shirt is short-sleeved, the color of celery left too long in the fridge.
That
The
coffee
badge
ain't gonna
on his
help you
pocket
forget,
catches
honey.
the vending machine
Start
light in
talking.
the hallway. He says, "Start when you're ready." Then nothing. Silence as tactic thick, shaped to fit the room. You nod, pretending approval. You say, "I'm fine," though your hands don't agree about where to rest. One taps, one hides. You decide to keep the story small. Names, times, nothing that spills. You whisper small, and the
Why
word
did you
feels
keep
smaller
walking
still,
after she vanished?
dragged back like a shell by foam. The air smells of old coffee and sunscreen. A tape machine hums beside you, new but already tired. Its red light blinks steady. Your pulse does not. You focus on that light instead of his eyes. Lights don't ask why you kept walking. "Let's begin with the beach," he says. His voice is cautious, like someone testing a dock plank at night. "Tell me what you remember before the change." You say there was no change, that it was one long, predictable night. But your mouth starts with weather instead. The air was damp. The sand near the water was so hard footsteps tapped instead of sank. You mention the smell of hot dogs from a closed stand, the moon smearing silver paced across the surf. He nods, just barely, rapport without effort. You want to thank him. You don't. Her name is Tammy Lynn, saying it feels like writing on a postcard you'll never send. She liked humid nights, said they made mornings quieter. You talk about her towel. Bright palm fronds, too green to be real, and how she tied her hair high like a thought in a hurry. You recall a boardwalk song that played too long. You do not mention the argument. He mirrors your posture. You catch it, fight the urge to adjust. The fan clicks again, the fourth beat. You notice the edges of the room. Salt in the caulk, a June calendar hanging in August, a flyer promising safe beach fun. The silence bends until you speak just to straighten it. "We walked farther than usual," you say, past where the lifeguard chairs looked like skeletons. You regret the word, but it's recorded anyway. You describe waves lifting and setting down, the thin foam waiting like lace for a body. "And then," he asks softly, you want to say nothing. Instead, you tell how she stopped to fix her sandal strap. How you waited, counted to 30, then 60, then forgot numbers. You say you saw the horizon doing that trick. Flat but infinite. On tape, your voice sounds like a wave that never reaches shore. He clears his throat, a match that won't light. "Sometimes," he says, "when we talk about the ocean, we talk about ourselves. Projection as comfort." You nod. He hears guilt. You mean something smaller, the way your hand let go before either of you meant to. You shift to mirror him. The relief feels earned, though you don't know why. The fan ticks. The tape turns. Outside, the Atlantic rolls secrets smooth. "I kept walking because she told me to," you say. "Did she?" he asks. The light flickers, steadies. Your lips say yes. Your mind watches the words sail away. He offers water. You take it, though you're not thirsty. The cup tastes of old lemonade. You hold it as if it might anchor you. "Describe her laugh," he says. You do. You talk about how she bit the inside of her cheek when trying not to smile. You talk until the fan's rhythm replaces your heartbeat. "Before the change," he repeats. "What was the last ordinary thing?" You tell him about the shell. Striped, sharp-tipped, that she said looked like a shark fin. She tucked it into her towel corner. The memory feels too clear, suspiciously bright. Clarity, you think, might just be another form of hiding. He leans back. You don't. The tape keeps writing. You feel smaller than your shadow. "We didn't plan to go that far," you say. The map on the wall agrees. A short, friendly beach line. When he asks, "Why did you keep walking?" you answer carefully, "Because stopping would have made it real." He lets silence do the rest. The fan clicks. The ocean exhales. Your hands finally decide to be still. The fan slows overnight, or maybe your sense of time does. The tape reels keep their rhythm, patient and repetitive, like a tide unwilling to recede. He hasn't asked a new question in 10 minutes, just variations of the same one, each one lighter in weight but sharper in shape. You start answering them before he finishes. That's how looping begins. Not as deception, but relief. What did she say before you walked away? She said she'd catch up. And you believed her? She always caught up. And then, she didn't. He repeats the last two words softly. She didn't. The echo becomes yours. Your mind folds around it, tracing the contour of absence like a seashell's spiral. The fluorescent light hums above, a faint metallic buzz. He mirrors your breathing now, shallow, synchronized. Mirroring works both ways. When he shifts his hand, your shoulder tightens in return. Rapport through imitation. You're aware of it, and yet you let it happen. The room feels smaller tonight, as though the air conditioning decided to stop participating. The smell of wet carpet, old brine, and disinfectant fills the silence. You rub your wrist. He rubs his. Coincidence? No. Anchoring. Every gesture becomes a reference point. He says your name gently, as though saying it might convince you it's still yours. Then he says hers. Tammy Lynn. The syllables drag through the air like buoys. You look at the glass panel to your right, the one that pretends to be a mirror. You can almost see movement behind it. A faint outline, a shadow that shifts when you don't. You know they're watching. You can feel the second set of eyes counting blinks. Tell me again about the beach, he says. You start from the beginning, though the order has already begun to betray you. We went after work. She was tired. I said it'd help. Help what? The noise, you reply, but you don't explain whose. He leans in closer, elbows on knees, voice low and fragile. You walked past the lifeguard chairs? Yes. Did she? Yes. You saw her? Yes. After the pier lights went out? Pause. Yes. Are you sure? You don't answer. Instead, you describe the hum of insects that gather around the floodlights, how they formed constellations of their own. You mention the sound of distant music, Elton John on someone's radio, barely audible over the surf. The fan clacks again, the metronome of memory. He notes something. The pen's scratch across paper sounds too deliberate, as if he's drawing, not writing. You wonder what shape your voice makes when turned into ink. Then he smiles, barely there. You're doing fine, he says. I just need the small things. People remember the small things when they tell the truth. But you've been giving him small things all night. The sand's cold underside, the taste of salt on your tongue, the exact distance between you and the waterline. The truth must be somewhere among them, but the order keeps rearranging itself. He replays your words back through the recorder. She always caught up. The sound is yours but heavier, like it aged 10 years in seconds. Does that still sound true to you? He asks. You open your mouth, but the air gets there first. It sounds practiced, you admit. He nods, loop complete. He's found a fracture, and you've named it for him. Outside, thunder rolls somewhere far beyond the dunes. You feel it in your ribs before you hear it. The air thickens. Even the light turns warmer, sticky. He stands, closes the blinds. Storm coming, he murmurs. These rooms always get smaller when it rains. He doesn't mean it as metaphor, but that's how it lands. You think of the last time it rained that summer, the night Tammy said water never really takes anything. It just holds it differently. You told her she sounded poetic. She told you that was the problem. Where did you go after you noticed she was gone? I walked back toward the pier. Why not to the car? I thought she'd be ahead of me. Why? She moved faster. And she was barefoot? Yes. And you left footprints? Yes. He tilts his head. So did she. You nod too quickly. He lets the silence expand again, looping tension into calm. He says, you're remembering the order, not the event. The contradiction hits before the logic. He's right, but you still insist he's wrong. You're sure you saw her shadow first. Or maybe you just wanted to. He closes his notebook, leans back, mirrors your folded arms. You walked because she told you to. You exhale. Yes. Or because you didn't want to see what was behind you? The sound of rain begins. A slow, granular percussion. You find yourself answering before you can think. Both. He presses stop on the recorder. The reels sigh to a halt. For a moment, the only sound left is the hum of insects outside and the smell of ozone filling the room like static. He doesn't stand. You don't either. Two silhouettes, each reflecting the other, waiting for the first to move. The storm outlives the night. By morning, the sand has swallowed its own footprints, the sea pretending it was never involved. The room, however, remembers. It smells like static and bleach. He replaces the tape reel carefully like surgery. The new one spins without the faint protest the old one gave. He hums while threading the ribbon through the spool. You recognize the tune but can't name it the way you recognize guilt before reason. He asks if you slept. You tell him yes. He knows you didn't. The question was diagnostic, not personal. Silence as test. You've learned that every question now is a mirror. It reflects your outline but not your depth. He presses record. The red light returns, steady as a pulse. We'll start again, he says. You mentioned her towel last night. The green one with the fronds. What happened to it? You hesitate. The air feels heavier when he asks for objects. People vanish clean. Items leave residue. It was on the sand when I left, you reply. Near the cooler. And when you came back? It was gone. Gone. He repeats slower. Not moved. No. Gone. He writes gone in block letters. You watch the ink dry. The fan has stopped spinning. Now the only sound is the tape's slow rotation. He asks you to describe the night again, but differently. Pretend you're standing at the waterline. Tell me what you see. You close your eyes. The floor tilts with memory. The water's dark. You begin. Foam at my ankles. The pier's lights are half dead. She's ahead of me, maybe 20 feet. How can you tell? She's wearing white. The dress. You nod. The same dress from the Polaroid? He places the photograph between you. You hate how easily it breathes life back into her. Tammy's mid-laugh, face turned away, hair a bright blur. The flash erases everything behind her. A beach frozen in the act of disappearing. Yes, you whisper. He tilts the photo toward the light. You said she was 20 feet ahead. And you saw her. Yes. In the dark. There was moonlight. There were clouds. You pause. For a while, yes. He doesn't correct you. Instead, he mirrors your tone. For a while, yes. The echo folds in on itself like waves caught in a bottle. You both stare at the picture. The hum of the machine becomes the ocean's surrogate. You ever think memory edits itself? He asks. Every time I talk to you, you answer and surprise yourself. He smiles, a rare, almost private thing. That's honesty, he says. You should keep that. You wonder if honesty can be cataloged like evidence. He gestures toward the tape. You hear that? The hum. You nod. That's you. The machine only amplifies. You try to listen. It's faint, layered. His questions, your voice, a ghost of surf still clinging to the background. Each reel becomes a titapool of truth, shallow but reflective. He stands and opens the window. Rain air slips in, wet, metallic, smelling of ozone and cheap asphalt. Somewhere outside, gulls complain over empty fries. You're not supposed to feel nostalgic, but you do. He asks, when you left the beach, did you look back? You don't answer immediately. No. But you heard something? Maybe. What kind of sound? Like a zipper. Or sand shifting. Like footsteps. Maybe. He writes again. Maybe joins gone on the page. The silence after is clinical, but something softer leaks through. Do you want to find her? He asks quietly. The question lands wrong. You look at the tape, not him. You make it sound like she's somewhere waiting. Isn't that what people do? You almost laugh, but it doesn't arrive. The recorder clicks, marking another loop. You mention the shell again, the one Tammy tucked into her towel. It had a crack down the middle, you recall. She said it looked like lightning trapped inside. He leans forward. And the shell? Did you ever find it? You shake your head. He smiles, but this time it's deliberate. Memory's funny, he says. We lose people, but we keep the things that disappear with them. You want to ask what that means, but his eyes tell you it's rhetorical. He stops the tape and rewinds. The sound of it spinning backward makes your stomach lurch. Then he presses play. The earlier you fills the room. Calmer, lighter, unreliable. You hear yourself say, "We didn't plan to go that far." He pauses the playback. That's where the night changes, he says. The moment you started speaking in past tense. You don't recall doing it. People remember differently when guilt enters, he adds. You lean back, arms folded, eyes tracing the salt line along the window pane. Or when something becomes permanent. He studies you. You're not sure which this is yet, are you? The tape continues recording, swallowing the last word before you can answer. Outside, thunder fades, replaced by the clean hiss of morning surf. You realize the ocean never stopped listening. It just changed tapes. The storm leaves a residue of silence so dense you can almost taste it. The ranger station smells like electricity and wet paper. Overnight, someone has replaced the coffee pot, but the bitterness lingers in the air like an unresolved chord. You sit across from him again. The same table, the same blinking red light, the same mirrored choreography. Only now, he's less of a stranger and more of an echo that insists on existing. He begins without preface. Do you remember what you said about the towel yesterday? You nod. It was gone. Still gone. You glance at the photo still pinned to the corkboard behind him. Tammy's towel corner is visible there, bright and green, half folded under her arm. Still gone, you repeat. He tilts his head, the movement small but weighted. Sometimes people say gone when they mean hidden. Sometimes they mean kept. You shrug. Sometimes they just mean gone. He writes something down. You imagine the word again, written in that careful block script. You think maybe he likes the shape of it. The fan restarts with a faint buzz. Mechanical stuttering that syncs with your pulse. The static becomes a pulse, and the pulse becomes a metronome. You begin to anticipate his questions before he asks them. He says, "Tell me about the radio." You frown. "What radio?" "The one playing Elton John." "Oh," you say slowly because it wasn't your radio. Someone else's. Far down the beach. The sound traveled strange. "What song?" You hesitate. You want to say Tiny Dancer, but you're not sure if that's memory or invention. "Something slow." He nods. Music sticks to truth. People misremember faces, not melodies. You're not sure you believe him, but you find yourself humming a few notes, and they feel heavier than expected. "Do you know what looping is?" he asks suddenly. You exhale. "Yes," when the same thing plays until it becomes background. "Good," he says. "That's what happens to memory, too." The recorder clicks. He's not asking anymore. He's testing resistance. The tape eats your pauses whole. He folds his arms, your cue to do the same. He leans forward, you mirror him. Rapport as leash. He waits until you're perfectly symmetrical before continuing. "You said she told you to keep walking," he begins. "But the first night you said she didn't speak at all." You freeze. The contradiction arrives late but hits hard. "I don't remember saying that." He rewinds, presses play. Your own voice fills the room. "She didn't say anything." It sounds like someone else entirely. You stare at the speaker, at the trembling line of magnetic tape turning memory into evidence. "She didn't speak." You correct yourself. "But she looked at me like she would." He nods. "That's projection. We imagine what silence might have said if it wanted to hurt us." You shift in your seat, annoyed at how easily the term fits. "Maybe," you say, though it sounds smaller than intended. He adjusts the recorder volume, letting the faint hiss fill every gap between words. "Silence," he says, is an answer people refuse to translate. You notice his shirt is damp at the collar, either from the humidity or the effort of listening. He hands you a styrofoam cup. The coffee inside is cold but bitter enough to taste like confession. You ask, "How many of these have you done?" He smiles without moving his lips. Enough to know the ocean doesn't take. It trades. You want to ask what he traded, but you already know it's rhetorical. The rain starts again, softer this time, but steady. Each drop against the window becomes punctuation between thoughts. He leans forward, lowers his voice. "You know what I find interesting?" You wait. Every time you mention her, your left hand moves toward your pocket. "What's there?" You check instinctively. "Nothing. Just lint and warmth." "Habit," you say. "Or anchor," he counters. People need something to hold when the story starts changing shape. You realize he's right, you do it every time. You think of Tammy, the towel, the missing shell, the word gone. Each is an anchor disguised as detail. He lets the silence lengthen until it stops feeling like absence and starts feeling like texture. The tape hums. The fan wobbles on its axis. "You said she told you to keep walking," he repeats. "Where were you walking to?" "Nowhere," you say. He smiles, small and sharp. "That's not true." You blink. "Why?" "Because people never walk nowhere," he replies. "They walk away." The words sit between you, hot and unmovable. The static fills the space after a pale ocean of noise. You find yourself leaning toward it, wanting to drown a little. Finally, he stands and opens the window halfway. Wind rushes in, mixing the salt air with the scent of wet concrete. He says, "We'll stop here for now." You nod, though neither of you moves. The tape clicks to an end. The silence that follows is not clean. It's full of ghosts breathing through white noise. You realize the storm never really stopped. You just found a quieter room. Morning arrives without announcement. Just a change in temperature, a dimming of the overhead light, and the way the ocean outside begins to whisper instead of breathe. You've been awake since before sunrise, tracing the edge of the table with one finger. The laminate has a crack now, invisible until you find it by touch. He enters quietly, holding 2 paper cups of coffee. The gesture feels rehearsed, almost kind. He sets one down in front of you, though you've stopped drinking it hours ago. It's not about caffeine. It's about ritual, an anchor, something to hold when the truth begins to tremble. He sits across from you, but not directly opposite this time. The angle is deliberate, softer, meant to feel less like interrogation and more like conversation. Rapport as stage design. "Sleep?" he asks. "No." He nods as though you've confirmed something deeper. Sometimes sleeplessness tells the truth before language does. You almost smile. "You sound like her." He looks up. "Tammy?" You nod. "She said that once about waves, not sleep. That they don't crash, they confess." He writes that down. You regret giving him the line. The tape starts again, but quieter. The red light is dim now, nearly pink against the salt-streaked window. You listen to the low hum beneath your words and wonder if the machine knows it's recording ghosts. He says, "Tell me about her laugh again." You close your eyes. It wasn't loud. It was quick, like air escaping a secret. Sometimes she covered her mouth, sometimes not. She laughed hardest when she was pretending not to be afraid. "Afraid of what?" "The water," you answer. "Always the water." He tilts his head. "But she swam." "Yes." "So she faced what scared her. Or she kept pretending to." He doesn't respond. You both listen to the fan start its uneven rhythm again. A mechanical heartbeat. It skips every third rotation. He reaches for a folder on the table and slides a photograph toward you. Not the Polaroid this time, this one's darker, grainier. The pier at night. The lights spaced like broken teeth. 2 figures walking near the waterline. You and her, or maybe just the idea of you both. He taps the photo. This is the last still frame before she disappeared. The words fall flat. You stare at the figures, blurred, incomplete. You think about the contradiction. The camera saw what you couldn't, yet it doesn't prove anything. "She looks closer to the water than you," he says. "She liked the sound. And you liked distance?" You hesitate. "It helped me think." "About leaving?" You exhale through your nose. "About staying." The contradiction between thought and action feels like a pulse you can't quiet. You wanted to leave, but you waited. You wanted to stay, but your feet moved. He leans back, watching you instead of writing. You know what people forget? He asks. How quickly silence becomes memory. The hum of the tape agrees. He changes tactics, switching from questioning to recall guidance. Close your eyes, he says softly. Imagine the sand, the smell of salt and sunblock, the wind against your skin. You obey reluctantly. Now, he continues. See her walking ahead of you. What color is the sky? Gray. And the water? Dark. And the air? Still. And her? She's laughing. What's she saying? You hesitate. She's telling me to stop recording. He blinks. Recording. You open your eyes. She said it once on the beach. I was holding the tape player. I wanted to record the sound of the waves. She told me not to. Said the ocean doesn't like being copied. He studies your face. Did you record anyway? You nod slowly. For a few seconds. Just before the word won't finish. He waits. Silence as a net. Just before she ran ahead. You whisper. And you followed? You shake your head. I hesitated. I thought she'd turn back. He asks. Why didn't you call her name? You think about that. The air feels heavier. Because the waves were already saying it. He exhales quietly, as though afraid of breaking something. Then softer. Do you still have that tape? You look at him, unsure whether it's a trap or an offering. Somewhere. Where? In the glove compartment. Maybe. He nods once, closes his notebook. Then we'll listen to it later. The fan clicks again, right on cue. You realize how much the sound resembles the beach that night. Uneven, persistent, not quite random. As he stands, you notice his reflection in the glass. The window trembles with the wind, distorting him until his face could be anyone's. You think, if silence becomes memory, then maybe memory is just a recording we never turned off. He pauses at the door, glancing back. Same time tomorrow, he says. Bring the tape if you find it. You nod, though you know it's still in the car, wrapped in sand, waiting. When he leaves, you listen to the static hum a little longer. Somewhere inside the noise, you think you hear her laugh again. Small, quick, escaping. The next evening, the light in the ranger station feels borrowed. Not from the sun, too late for that, but from some leftover glow outside, trapped in humidity. The walls sweat. You do too. The sea breeze can't find its way through the closed windows, and the air conditioner hums like a distant argument. You've brought the cassette. It sits between you and him on the table, wrapped in a folded napkin. The tape inside is sand-gritted, the label half-peeled. Someone once wrote Waves 783 in blue ink, the letters warped from heat. He looks at it like it's evidence and confession both. You said this was from that night? You nod. Unplayed. You pause. Not since then. He leans forward, slow and careful, like approaching something fragile. You sure you're ready to hear it? Does that matter? He doesn't answer. He presses the cassette into the machine. The tape catches, hesitates, then obeys. Click, a hiss, and then sound. The room fills with wind first. A low, layered hush that moves like fabric. Beneath it, faint laughter, yours, hers, then static. It's thin but real. You hold your breath. He watches you more than he listens. That's her. You whisper. Describe what you remember when you hear it. You stare at the red light on the player. She was teasing me for recording. Said I was trying to keep the sea in a jar. And I told her I could if I wanted. Did she believe you? She laughed. The tape crackles. Another voice, yours again, muttering something indistinct. Then silence. A minute of nothing but wind. He presses pause. That last sound. Was that her walking away? You close your eyes. Could be. Or me turning the recorder off. He writes something down, the pen scratching like a tide on gravel. You glance toward the observation glass. Behind it, faint light, maybe reflection, maybe someone watching. But when you move, the silhouette doesn't. You realize it's your own. The mirror pretending again. He follows your gaze. You keep looking over there, he says. There's something off about it. It's one-way glass. You nod, though it's not comfort. The reflection blurs, ghost-like, when you exhale. He stands, steps behind you, then positions himself so his image aligns with yours in the glass. Two shapes overlapping. Look, he says. We both exist. You don't reply. The mirror doubling feels invasive, too intimate. He asks softly, when she disappeared, did you look for her reflection in the water? You think, yes, but it kept breaking. Because of the waves? Because of me? You whisper. He lets that linger. Rapport through silence. You're aware of the tactic now, but awareness doesn't protect you from it. He returns to his chair. Tell me what you see in the glass. Nothing. You sure? You lean closer. The window's surface shows salt stains, fingerprints, faint rings of condensation. In the blur, you think you see her towel's green corner flicker, a trick of color, maybe memory's echo. He doesn't look up from his notes. Sometimes absence leaves a residue. People mistake that for haunting. You swallow hard. So what's residue then? Guilt, he says without looking up. The tape clicks, reaching its end. The sudden silence feels surgical, precise, intentional. He rewinds it halfway and presses play again. The same wind, same laughter, then something else. A voice soft, almost lost. Don't look back. You flinch. He glances up. Recognize it? It's her. Or you, he says. You shake your head, but doubt crawls in. You've heard your own voice on too many recordings. It never sounds like you think it should. He stops the tape. Maybe that's the point. What? That we never really hear ourselves until it's too late. You can't tell if it's philosophy or accusation. He slides the cassette toward you. Keep it. You don't reach for it. You brought it back to life, he continues. Now it belongs to you again. The hum of the air conditioner fills the pause. The static from the speaker fades, replaced by the thrum of fluorescent light overhead. You ask, what happens now? He smiles faintly. Now we start listening for what isn't there. The glass reflects both of you again. Two outlines dissolving into condensation. For a moment, it looks like she's standing behind you, half-formed from the overlap. Then the fan stutters. The image breaks. He says, almost kindly, you see how easily things disappear? You nod, but your throat tightens anyway. The taste of salt hasn't left your mouth since that night. The tape stays on the table between you, but neither of you touches it again. The napkin wrapper has gone translucent from the humidity. Somewhere beyond the walls, crickets begin their dry song, thin, relentless, the sound of a world pretending to rest. He moves slower tonight. No notebook this time, just a single sheet folded into thirds. I want to try something different, he says. Not questions, images. You nod, though it already sounds like a trick. He draws a small circle on the paper, sets it in front of you. Pretend this is the shoreline, he says. Close your eyes. The beach, the air, the temperature. What do you feel first? You obey. The dark behind your eyelids flickers gray, then silver, then black again. Warm, you say, but the wind feels wrong, like it's coming from inland. He murmurs, good, stay there. You're not in danger, just observing. What are you wearing? Denim shorts, white shirt. And Tammy? Yellow sundress. She's walking ahead again? Yes. Same distance. No. Closer. He nods, though you can't see it. Now feel the sand under your feet. Count your steps. You do. 1, 2, 3. The grains shift like they're trying to remember their own order. He says, when did you stop hearing the waves? You hesitate. Right before she turned. Turned toward you. You shake your head. Away. Describe that. She looked back once, smiled, then turned away like she'd forgotten something behind her. And you? I waited. Why? You open your eyes. Because she asked me to. He tilts his head, mirroring your motion perfectly. You said she didn't speak that night. You inhale through your teeth. Then maybe I just wanted her to. He leans back. That's the contradiction. He lets the air settle. The fan hums low, continuous. The sound of a ceiling remembering its weight. Let's try another anchor, he says. Smell. You frown, but he continues. Coconut oil, sunscreen, salt. The smell of metal from the pier railing. What changes first when she disappears? The air. How? It stops moving, like the ocean forgot to breathe. He nods slowly, as if your words confirm something he already believed. Anchoring helps reveal where memory resists itself. The mind preserves what it can bear. You watch him, and discards the rest? Not discards, he corrects. Hides, like driftwood. He slides the paper away. The circle he drew earlier is smudged into a spiral. Why did you come back to the beach? He asks quietly. To help look. Who asked you to? The officer. Which one? You hesitate. You. He pauses. That was 2 days later. You feel a weight shift inside your chest. The timeline doesn't hold. He sees it. It's all right, he says. Memory bends under pressure. That's normal. The word normal feels foreign now. He picks up the cassette again, taps it once. This is your first anchor. What's your second? You think. Her towel. He smiles faintly. The one that's gone. You nod. Then the third. The shell. He writes the words tape, towel, shell across the margin of his paper. These 3 objects, he says, form your map. If we follow them backward, we'll find the point where the story stops being memory and starts being wish. He folds the paper again, careful, precise. You look at the window. The reflection of the tape's red light trembles across the glass. For a heartbeat, it looks like a signal. You wonder if she could see it from wherever she is, if that's what she's been waiting for. A single blinking pulse, saying you can come back now. He clears his throat. What are you thinking? That maybe she isn't gone, you answer. Maybe she's just somewhere else in the story. He studies you for a long moment. That's projection, he says gently. You half smile. Or hope. He doesn't argue. The hum from the air conditioner deepens. The light flickers once, twice. Then the building groans, as if remembering the storm. He whispers, "We'll stop here." You stay seated. The tape keeps spinning, though no one pressed record. Outside, the ocean starts again. Faint, deliberate, like a voice rehearsing what it's about to confess. The next session begins in silence, though the tape has already been running for 3 minutes. He doesn't announce it this time. You notice only because of the faint magnetic hum, that soft dragging sound like water pulling sand from under itself. The red light is steady. You are not. He sits closer than usual. No table between you, just space small enough for honesty to feel dangerous. You ever swim out past the buoys? He asks. You shake your head. No. Why not? Because that's where people disappear. He almost smiles. Interesting. That's also where stories repeat. You don't ask what he means. The smell of rain still lingers from the night before, mixing with coffee and the faint tang of salt that never seems to leave this room. The air feels thick enough to drink. He opens his notebook again, new page, blank. Let's revisit something, he says. The towel, the tape, the shell. You nod. The map, right? He draws 3 dots in a triangle. Which one matters most? The shell. You answer too quickly. Why? Because it broke. He waits, patient. You feel the pressure of his silence filling the space between words. You clarify. Tammy said broken things prove existence. That if it can crack, it's real. He repeats softly. If it can crack, it's real. Then, quieter. Do you believe that? I don't know. You kept the shell? You nod. It's in the car. He leans forward. Still, yes. Why? You exhale. Because I thought if I threw it away, I'd forget her face. He nods slowly, anchoring through objects. Common. But the towel's gone, you add. And the tape doesn't sound the same anymore. He glances at the recorder still running. Memory never plays back clean. It edits itself until the truth fits the frame. You don't respond. You can hear the surf again in your head, the rhythm looping under every question he asks. He begins another exercise. Close your eyes. You're back at the beach. Tammy's near the waterline, your feet on the dry sand. What's she doing? She's writing something. In the sand. Yes. What word? You hesitate. Mine. He blinks. Yours. She was teasing, you say. She wrote it, laughed, then erased it with her heel. And how did that make you feel? Like I'd won something I never asked for. He lets out a quiet breath. You didn't mention this before. I didn't remember it before. Or you didn't want to. You open your eyes. His face looks different under the flickering light. Less interrogator, more witness. The way he watches you feels almost personal. The tape hums. You hear your own breathing through it. Doubled. You ever notice, he says, how people confess without realizing it? Not through words, but through repetition. You tilt your head. Like looping. Exactly. You've said the word walked 23 times in these recordings. You frown. You counted. He shrugs. Patterns reveal pressure points. Maybe I just like the word. Or maybe you haven't stopped walking yet. You laugh once, but it breaks halfway out. So what do I do? Stop. He shakes his head. Not yet. The fan clicks. Outside, the sound of waves returns as if cued. He stands, walks toward the window, opens it an inch. The humid air rolls in, smelling of seaweed and diesel. You said you saw her reflection once. In the water, he says without turning around. Yes. What did it look like? Unfinished. He looks over his shoulder. Like now. You stare at him, unsure whether it's accusation or invitation. He comes back to the chair, sits, adjusts the recorder volume slightly. The tape hiss grows louder, swallowing small sounds. Listen carefully, he says. There's a moment every subject reaches it, when they start answering questions that haven't been asked yet. That's when the loop closes. You stay quiet. So tell me, he continues, what question are you trying to answer right now? You think for a long time before saying, why I didn't run. He nods. And what's the answer? I thought she'd come back. He studies you. And if she did? You don't look away. Then maybe I'd have to disappear. The room holds its breath. He leans back slowly, voice nearly a whisper. Maybe you already did. The tape keeps spinning, louder now, almost like surf crashing against the window pane. Do you hear that? He asks. You nod. It's looping. Exactly. You look at the red light, still blinking. It doesn't look like a machine anymore. It looks like an eye that refuses to close. You wake before the interrogation does. The room is dark except for the weak strip of dawn sneaking through the blinds, dividing the table into shadow and half-light. The air tastes like metal and dust. Someone's replaced the coffee again, but it smells the same burnt, necessary ritual. He arrives wordlessly, sets a manila folder on the table. The corners are damp from the humidity. You left your car unlocked, he says. You blink, not understanding. The shell, he continues. It's here now. He opens the folder. Inside, the broken piece of shell rests on a square of paper towel. This crack catches the light like lightning frozen mid-strike. You stare. You went through my car? I retrieved an anchor, he replies. You said you keep what you can't let go of. I wanted to see if that was true. You look at the shell. Still damp, faintly smelling of sea. You shouldn't have. He shrugs. Neither should you. The sentence lands heavier than it should. He slides the shell toward you, letting it stop halfway. Tell me what you see. You lean in. The fracture down the middle isn't clean. The branches thin as veins. You whisper, it looks like a map. To where? To where things stop making sense. He smiles slightly. Most maps lead there. You glance at the tape recorder already spinning. You started recording again. I never stopped. He sits back. We're getting close now, he says. Not to an answer. Just the right question. You don't ask what that is. Instead, you pick up the shell. The texture is rougher than you remember. Edges sharper, the surface colder. It feels alive. somehow, humming with the static of everything left unsaid. He watches your hands. You remember what color her towel was? You nod. Green. Palm fronds. And her car. You hesitate. White. He writes something down. Witnesses said blue. That's wrong. Maybe, he says, still writing. Or maybe your eyes changed colors with her. You frown. You think I'm lying. I think you're remembering in defense. The contradiction pulses in your throat. You want to tell him memory doesn't defend. It survives. But you let the silence take it instead. The ceiling fan groans back to life. The blades push air thick with salt and disuse. He stares at the spinning shell in your hand, as if the motion itself is testimony. He asks quietly, "What's the first thing you'd say to her if she walked in right now?" You exhale slowly. You took too long. Would she answer? She'd laugh first. He nods like he's heard that laugh before. Describe it again. You do. You talk about how it never arrived the same way twice. Sometimes bright, sometimes broken, sometimes as quiet as tide foam slipping back to sea. As you speak, the room begins to dissolve. Fluorescent hum fading into surf, paper rustle into wind. You see it again, her silhouette at the horizon, the hem of her dress catching salt light. The image feels close enough to touch, yet impossibly far. "Stay there," he whispers. "Describe what happens next." She turns. Toward you. No. Toward the water? Yes. And you? I freeze. Why? Because she shouldn't have been smiling. He leans forward. What do you mean? You open your mouth, but only air comes out. The memory is speaking faster than you can translate. The sound that leaves you isn't quite a word. He lets the tape run. The light through the blinds brightens, cutting across his face. For a moment, you see two of him, the reflection from the window superimposed over the reel. The duplicate blinks a half-second late, like a delayed conscience. He closes the folder. We're almost done. Almost. He nods. The horizon's closer than you think. You look down at the shell again. The crack in it lines up perfectly with the scar on your palm you don't remember getting. When you glance back up, he's watching you with a look that isn't curiosity anymore. It's understanding or something pretending to be. He says, "People forget the ocean doesn't end. It just curves away from sight." You whisper, "Like memory." He smiles faintly. Exactly. The fan hums louder, the recorder whirs. You set the shell back down. It leaves a faint ring of moisture on the table, half a circle, half a horizon. By now, the room has learned your breathing. It inhales when you do, exhales when you hesitate. The sound of the fan no longer separates itself from your thoughts. Every click feels like punctuation to something you haven't yet confessed. He's not taking notes tonight. No pen, no file. Only his voice, and that small recorder still pulsing red. The absence of paper feels more dangerous than the presence of questions. He starts gently. When did you first notice she wasn't afraid anymore? You answer without thinking. That night. What changed? She stopped avoiding the water. He leans forward. Or maybe you stopped seeing her fear. You shift. What's that supposed to mean? He gestures toward the reflection in the window. Projection. We lend our feelings to others so we can pretend they're not ours. The word lingers between you, sticky as the air. You can smell the ocean again, though the windows are shut. He continues, voice lower. Maybe you were the one who was afraid of the water. You want to protest, but your throat refuses the order. You remember the sound of waves collapsing over themselves. The way the horizon looked endless and close all at once. I just didn't like how deep it looked. You manage? He nods slowly, as if that explains everything. Depth is only frightening when you expect to sink. You almost laugh. You sound like her again. He tilts his head. Maybe that's why you keep talking to me. Silence stretches. The fan hiccups once. Resumes. Somewhere far off. A freight horn hums across the water. You realize you've never seen the tracks but have always heard the sound. He picks up the shell from yesterday. The crack gleams under the lamp. You said this looked like lightning, he reminds you. Tammy said that. But you kept it. You nod. He turns it in his palm. It's strange how people keep reminders of pain, as if proof can prevent repetition. You look down at the table. Sometimes keeping something is the only way to admit it's real. He studies you, searching for a seam. What do you think happened to her? You swallow. She went into the water. And you? I stayed. Because you couldn't swim? Because I didn't believe she would. He mirrors your tone. And now I don't know if I should have followed. He says nothing. The silence turns into surf again, low, cyclical, patient. You ask, why do you keep using these tactics? Mirroring, silence, whatever it's called. Doesn't it get old? He smiles faintly. Not if the ocean keeps coming back. You study him. You talk like someone who's lost something too. He doesn't deny it. Everyone in this job has. The tape hums between you. You both look at it as if expecting it to speak first. You reach out, press stop. The silence that follows feels heavier than any recording. He waits. Then softly. Tell me what you see when you close your eyes. You obey. Her, you say. Standing where the sand turns darker. She's facing the water, but not moving. What's she wearing? The yellow dress. It's wet at the bottom. And you? I'm holding the recorder. He nods. The same one. Yes. What do you want to do with it? Throw it into the sea. Why? So it stops repeating. He stands, walks to the window, opens it slightly. The night air smells of rust and tide. You could, he says quietly. End the loop. You shake your head. Then I'd forget her voice. He looks at you for a long moment. Maybe you already have. The words strike like salt on a wound you didn't know was open. You turn the shell over in your hand. The crack catches the lamplight, splitting it into two colors, pale gold and blue, the same as the horizon that night. He asks, what do you think she saw out there? You answer, freedom. And what did you see? You look up, meet his eyes. My reflection. He nods once, satisfied. Projection complete. The phrase feels final, but he doesn't move to stop the tape. The recorder hums louder, like it's breathing through you both. You stare at the window. The faint outline of your reflection stares back. But this time, there are two silhouettes. You blink, but the second one doesn't. You whisper, do you see that? He doesn't answer. The fan clicks again. The silhouette fades. The hum becomes softer, rhythmic, tidal. Somewhere deep inside the machine, the tape keeps turning, quiet, endless, looping. By now, even the silence knows the script. The fan begins its cycle. The tape hums to life. The chair creaks just before he speaks. Everything follows a pattern that feels rehearsed but still manages to hurt. He gestures to the cassette again, the same one you swore you wouldn't listen to anymore. Play it, he says. You hesitate but press record instead of play. He notices. That's the wrong button. No, you answer quietly. It isn't. For a moment you both listen, to nothing, to everything. The soft static gathers around your words like breath on glass. He leans forward. Why record silence? Because it doesn't argue. The reply lands heavier than you expect. He says nothing for a long time, letting the machine capture the air between you as if it might one day testify. After a minute, he says, tell me about the car. You blink. What about it? You mentioned leaving the tape there and the shell, but not what happened when you drove away. You stare at the floor. The tile is stained in the pattern of a forgotten flood. It was early. The sun hadn't come up yet. And the seatbelt buckle was hot. I remember that. He nods. Where did you go? I don't know. North, maybe. You said you came back 2 hours later. Did I? You did. The contradiction sits between you like another chair at the table. He lowers his voice. When you came back, what did you expect to find? You whisper, her. And instead, the towel. The one that was gone. You nod. Folded. Dry. He tilts his head. Folded. Like someone had finished using it. He writes something, then stops halfway. Did you ever tell anyone that? You shake your head. The air conditioner kicks on, coughing dust into the corners. He presses rewind. The tape whirs backward, faster, then stops. We'll listen to something, he says. The speaker hisses, then releases your voice from hours ago. She always caught up. He plays it again. She always caught up. And again. She always caught up. Each repetition erases a little more meaning until the words sound like water swallowing itself. He turns the volume down to a whisper. What do you hear? You answer, the ocean pretending to be me. He nods. Echoes aren't lies. They're just delayed. You study his face. He looks tired, but in a way that suggests this conversation has been happening longer than either of you realize. He says softly, sometimes I think people disappear twice. Once when they leave, and once when we stop hearing them. You glance at the recorder. Which one is this? He exhales. You tell me. The hum of the machine grows louder. It's almost rhythmic, like waves hitting rocks. You close your eyes and suddenly you're back on the beach. The sand colder now, the horizon drawn thin, as if the sky forgot to finish. She's there again, Tammy Lynn, her dress ghosting around her legs. She's facing the water. You call her name, but the sound doesn't travel. It loops, returns to you softer, as if someone edited it for kindness. When you open your eyes, he's watching you carefully. Where were you just now? Nowhere. He nods. Good. That's usually where the truth hides. He presses stop. The tape reels freeze mid-spin, one of them half full, half empty. You stare at it, realizing you can't tell which direction the sound travels anymore. Forward, backward, or just in circles. He stands, stretches, but doesn't move toward the door. Tomorrow, he says, we'll talk about the last thing you saw before she disappeared. You ask, and if I don't remember? He looks at you evenly. You will. The ocean's patient. As he leaves, the fluorescent lights flicker out. The room exhales. You press play on the recorder without knowing why. The tape crackles. Then a voice, your own, but not recent, whispering through static. If it can crack, it's real. You stop the tape. The silence that follows feels alive. The next day, the room has changed. You can't name how, but the light feels thinner, as if even the walls have begun to fade. The mirror has lost its reflection. Now it shows only blur, a silver fog that swallows shapes before they form. He's already there when you arrive, sleeves rolled, no notebook, no files. The tape recorder waits in the center of the table. It's been rewound. You ready? He asks. For what? To stop looking. He presses play. The hiss fills the air, then soft static, then your voice again. Timid, lost between words. She always caught up. Then another layer you've never heard before. Laughter beneath it, faint, almost buried. Your chest tightens. That wasn't there before. He nods. It always was. You just didn't stay long enough to hear it. You close your eyes. The sound grows larger than the room. It becomes the ocean again, endless, recursive, whispering its own language. He lowers his voice. What's happening right before she vanishes? You see it clearly now. The horizon half drawn, the tide pulling darker. Tammy's footprints lead into the water. Her laugh still echoes behind you, even though she's already walking away. She turned, you say. She looked at me and smiled. And I thought she was coming back. But she didn't. You shake your head. No. He asks, did you follow? You whisper, only to where the waves touched my knees. He leans closer. Why stop there? Because it felt like crossing into something that didn't want me. He nods, voice almost kind. And what did she say? You exhale. Nothing. Just that look. Like she knew I wouldn't. The tape continues to hum, capturing each breath. Somewhere in the noise, a faint rhythm. One long, two short. Like a heartbeat recorded underwater. He says, you said before that silence was an answer. Do you still believe that? You think about it. Maybe silence is the only honest language we ever learn. He studies you. Then what does her silence say? You look at the fogged mirror. It says stop listening. He reaches over, presses stop. The tape reels freeze mid-spin. The The room goes completely still, the air holding its breath. "Then we're done," he says quietly. But he doesn't move. Neither do you. After a long pause, you ask, "What happens to the tapes?" "They stay here." "And me?" He looks at you. "That depends on whether you keep walking." You try to smile, but it doesn't arrive. He stands, walks to the window, opens it. The sound of the sea drifts in, clean, endless, forgiving. He says, "The ocean never erases. It just changes handwriting." You close your eyes. The air smells like rain again. Faint coconut, salt, old memories still clinging to breath. You picture Tammy one last time. Her back to you, her laughter in the tide, her outline thinning until she's nothing but motion. The tape recorder clicks one final time and stops, leaving a hum that doesn't fade, only dissolves. The room feels lighter now, almost transparent. The reflection in the mirror returns, but it isn't entirely yours. A second outline flickers behind it, shoulder to shoulder, half there, half gone. You whisper, "Tammy." No answer, only the hum. You breathe once, slow. The air feels like surrender. When you open your eyes again, the chair across from you is empty. The tape is still. The fan, the light, the hum, all gone quiet. Only the window remains open, the sound of surf slipping through. You whisper into the quiet, "You caught up," and for the first time, no echo comes back. The tape keeps its silence. The sea resumes its old rhythm, unconcerned with what it's taken or returned. Outside, dawn lifts the clouds off the horizon, slow and deliberate, revealing a sky washed clean of intent. In the empty ranger station, everything hums with afterimage. The metal chair still remembers the weight it carried. The tabletop glows faintly where the shell once lay. Even the mirror, dull and patient, keeps a thin ghost of reflection at its edge. Somewhere along the shoreline, footprints dry into nothing. A towel, green with palm fronds, lies half buried in the sand. The kind of detail the tide might forget or remember depending on how kind the morning is. If you listen closely, you can still hear it. The faint click of tape reels winding down. The slow pulse of an unfinished confession dissolving into background noise. What was once a voice becomes texture. What was once guilt becomes tide. You are still sitting in the chair, or maybe you never were. The story continues without you, looping quietly in the hum between sea and silence. The horizon remains half-drawn, the kind of line that promises distance but delivers memory. And somewhere beyond that line, someone laughs, softly, the way Tammy used to. You don't turn toward it. Not this time.